Hello and welcome to the program Sula's Big Adventures with me, Sula. In this episode, I'm going to explain how to find the brightest stars and the constellations with a planisphere. I think amateur astronomers can be lumped into three broad groups. Of course, there's overlap, but generally there's the first group, and that's people who enjoy reading articles and books about astronomy and astrophysics and learning about the latest advances in our understanding of the cosmos, things like that. And those people are content to experience the night sky vicariously through other people. Then there's group two, and those are people who are technological or mechanically inclined, who like to make telescopes or accumulate vast collections of gear, guide scopes, astro cameras, filter wheels, electronic focusers, etc. And they're content to collect images of things they may or probably have never seen in the sky, maybe even with a telescope they don't own that's remotely operated, and processing those images for hours at a computer. Then there's the third group, and that would be people who just love looking at the night sky. I do own my fair share of equipment, and I know how to make images of the sun, the moon, the planets, and even deep sky objects. And I also love reading astronomy books, but my heart will forever lie with the third group because my true love is looking at the starry, starry sky. And if you too are interested in visual astronomy, then this video is for you. When I was a little girl, I was fortunate to grow up in a rural area with very dark skies, and I always enjoyed looking at the night sky, but I didn't know anything. I couldn't have even pointed out the Big Dipper at that time, because back then there just weren't any resources available. But today, there's a plethora of resources available to anyone interested in getting into the wonderful hobby of amateur astronomy. But where to start? Well, if you're just starting out and you don't even know where the Big Dipper is, then my suggestion would be to start out with just your naked eye and the humble planisphere. You can use a digital star chart on your phone like Stellarium or Sky Safari, but I personally think the planisphere works best. And this is my planisphere, Guide to the Stars. It's a deluxe model and it was $25, but you don't need anything this fancy. You can get a smaller one from Orion Telescopes and other places for about $6. But I like this one because it's big and it's easy to read, and it has a wealth of information on it, on the front, on the back, and even in the margins. This planisphere covers 30 to 90 degrees latitude, 60 degrees latitude, and I'm at 37 degrees latitude right now, so this planisphere will work where I plan to observe. And if your planisphere covers only a smaller portion, just check what your latitude is on your phone using your compass or by just looking it up on the internet if you don't know already. But most of them will work anyway. So a couple of things that you'll notice about your planisphere right away is that it cannot possibly convey just how enormous these constellations are in the sky. For example, Orion is only about an inch high in this planisphere, whereas in the sky it takes my extended arm with all my fingers spread apart to cover Orion. Also, you'll notice that the planisphere covers the entire sky, but you can only see half of the sky at any time unless you're lying on the ground with a 360-degree view. But since you'll most likely be standing or sitting in a chair, you'll need to point your planisphere either north or south to start and look at half of the sky. And you may have noticed that the planisphere doesn't have the planets, and that's because the planets orbit around the sun at different rates, and they don't move across the sky with the stars at all times. To find the planets, you'll need to look that information up on the internet or in Sky and Telescope or something like that. If you see something in the sky that's bright and it's not on your planisphere, most likely it is a planet. Planets don't twinkle in general unless the seeing is very bad. The stars twinkle, and that's how you tell them apart when you're starting. You'll also notice this gray line, and that's the ecliptic, the apparent path of the sun, the moon, and the planets. And the planets will always be near this gray line. Another thing you'll notice on the planisphere, and if you stand outside for long enough, is that the constellations move from left to right as you turn the wheel, and in the sky they move from east to west, and that's because all the stars in the heavens in the northern hemisphere rotate around Polaris, the North Star, which is this grommet. Now let's find out how to use a planisphere. Choose a moonless night with no clouds, a dark place, but it can be your backyard, but if it's light polluted, you won't see as many stars and you won't see the dimmer constellations, but some of them are so dim that they're even hard to see from a dark sky site. You'll need a red headlamp also. Your planisphere has a wheel on it. With your planisphere upright and face south at the bottom, set your date and time. It's February the 8th at 6 p.m. And then you can either face south or face north, but we're going to start by facing north. Then you face north. And if you don't know where north is, just note where the sun set and turn your body 90 degrees clockwise, and that'll be more or less north. Now let's look for something most people probably are familiar with, and that's the Big Dipper. It looks like a bowl with a long handle, and in spring the handle will be dangling down from the bowl. The Big Dipper is not actually a constellation though. It's an asterism, or just a pattern in the sky. And it's part of the constellation, the Big Bear, Ursa Major. The top two stars of the Big Dipper are called the pointer stars because they point to Polaris, the North Star. And the North Star is in the Little Dipper, which is also an asterism within the Little Bear, Ursa Minor. Now you know two constellations, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. Here is the Big Dipper, and those top two stars are the pointer stars, Dubhe and Merak, and they point to Polaris, right in the center of the field of view of this camera. And the two in the bottom corner are Kokab and Faircad, and that's the Little Dipper. Two more things I want to tell you about the planisphere is that the planisphere shows the whole sky, but you cannot see the whole sky unless you're lying on the ground. You can only see half of the sky, and so that's why you have to turn it and face south or face north. And if you're facing south, the bottom of the planisphere should say face south, and if you're facing north, the bottom of the planisphere should say face north. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that a planisphere, like all star charts, has east on the left-hand side and west on the right-hand side. And you'll notice that some of the constellations look kind of squashed, and that's because a planisphere is trying to show you something that's arced in a flat plane. So it may not look it's not going to look like it looks in the sky, but it's close enough that you'll be able to identify the major constellations. Now let's turn the planisphere so that it's facing south and says south at the bottom, and turn our bodies facing south by turning 90 degrees counterclockwise from wherever the sun sets. So we're more or less facing south, because there's some very bright constellations facing south in wintertime. There are bright constellations facing south in summer as well, but I'm recording this in winter, so that's what we're going to look at. Okay, so you're facing south, and you look up and you see 3 stars in a row, and that's the belt of Orion. So there's his belt, and this whole thing is Orion. And if you follow his belt down, it points to Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky in the constellation Canis Major. Can't fit it in there. There it is at the bottom of the screen. There's Sirius, also known as the dog star, in Canis Major. So when you go out with your planisphere to learn the stars and constellations, start off with maybe 3 or 4 stars and constellations and keep going out, and eventually it'll sink in and you'll start memorizing them, and you'll probably get up to 5,000 stars if you stick with it, and you'll need that to find deep sky objects later on. So that's it for now. I hope you found this useful. I'll see y'all soon. Until then, get outside and enjoy the night sky. Dark skies forever. Sula, signing off.